You know, there's something that happens inside us on Christmas Day that doesn't quite happen any other time of year. It's almost like the world takes a breath, the chaos slows, the noise fades just enough for us to hear something we've been ignoring for months, our own heartbeat, our own questions, our own need for something real. And if you've ever sat in a quiet room on Christmas morning, maybe before anyone else woke up, maybe with a cup of coffee in your hand and nothing but silence around you, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. That moment when you're not distracted by the wrapping paper or the music or even the people you love. You're just there, alone with your thoughts, and suddenly you realize you're searching for something deeper than what any gift under a tree could ever give you. You're searching for meaning. You're searching for peace. You're searching for a reason to believe that everything you've been through this year, all the heartache and confusion and disappointment, somehow leads to something bigger than just getting through another day. Bill Gaither understands that moment better than most. For over 60 years, he's been writing songs, leading worship, and standing in front of crowds who came looking for hope. But here's what most people don't realize: Bill never set out to be famous. He set out to be faithful. And there's a massive difference between those two things. Fame chases applause. Faithfulness chases truth. Fame wants to be seen. Faithfulness wants to serve. And when Bill Gaither talks about Christmas, he's not talking about lights, decorations, or even nostalgia. He's talking about the one thing that holds us together when everything else is falling apart. He's talking about why we believe at all. He's talking about the moment when belief stops being something we inherited and becomes something we chose, something we fought for, something we clung to when there was nothing else left to hold. Now, I want you to think about something for a second. When was the last time you truly stopped and asked yourself why Christmas matters? Not why it's nice, not why it's tradition, but why it actually matters in the deepest part of your soul. Because here's the thing, most of us have been taught what Christmas is. We know the story, we know the songs, we've heard the sermons, we've seen the nativity scenes, but knowing something and feeling it are not the same. You can know the facts of Christmas and still miss the heart of it. You can celebrate the season and still feel empty inside. And that emptiness, that sense that something is missing even in the middle of all the celebration, is exactly what Bill Gaither has spent decades addressing. He's been helping people move from knowing to feeling, from hearing to believing, and from celebrating to surrendering. And that's exactly what makes his message so powerful, especially now, in a time when so many people are tired, burned out, and wondering if any of this still matters. Bill often says that the message of Christmas isn't found in celebration alone, it's found in remembrance. And that word, remembrance, is crucial. Because remembering isn't just looking back. It's not nostalgia. It's not sentimentality. It's anchoring yourself to something solid when the present feels shaky. It's reminding yourself of what's true when your emotions are lying to you. It's standing on a foundation that doesn't shift when your circumstances do. And the truth Bill keeps pointing people back to is, this God chose humility over grandeur. He chose presence over power. He chose the ordinary over the spectacular. The birth of Christ wasn't announced with trumpets in the palaces of kings. It didn't happen in Rome. It didn't happen in Jerusalem. It happened in a barn, among animals, in the middle of the night, with only a few witnesses. It was quiet. It was simple. It was so easy to miss that most of the world didn't even notice it was happening. And yet, it carried a promise strong enough to sustain billions of people across thousands of years. That's not just history, that's hope with a pulse. That's God saying, I'm not coming the way you expect. I'm coming in a way that meets you right where you are. But here is where it gets personal, and this is where Bill's message starts to cut through all the noise. He doesn't just talk about Christmas as a theological event. He doesn't present it as something distant or abstract. He talks about it as a lifeline. He talks about the seasons when answers didn't come quickly, the times when prayers felt like they were bouncing off the ceiling, the moments when everything you thought you believed was tested, not by doubt, but by silence, not by opposition, but by absence. And in those moments, the only thing left to hold on to was belief itself, not feelings, not proof, not miracles, just belief, just the decision to keep trusting even when nothing around you confirms that your trust is warranted. And Bill says that's when the Christmas story stopped being just scripture and became reassurance. It became the thing that kept him going. It became the voice that whispered, keep going, even when everything else was telling him to quit. You see, faith isn't proven when life is easy. Anyone can believe when everything is working out. Anyone can praise God when the bills are paid, the kids are healthy, and the marriage is strong. But faith is proven when hope must be chosen deliberately. When you have to wake up and decide again that you're going to trust God, even though nothing around you has changed. When you have to sing the song again, even though your voice is shaking. When you have to show up again, even though you're exhausted. That's the kind of faith that Bill Gaither talks about. That's the kind of faith that moves people to tears, not because it's sad, but because it's real. It's honest. It's the kind of faith that says, I don't have all the answers, but I'm still here, and I'm still believing. I don't understand why this is happening, but I'm still choosing to trust. And that kind of honesty, that kind of raw, unpolished faith, is what connects with people on the deepest level. And here's what Bill reminds us: Christmas is proof that God didn't enter the world to remove every hardship. He came to walk with us through them. That shift in perspective changes everything, because so many of us are waiting for God to fix everything before we can trust Him. We're waiting for the diagnosis to change, for the relationship to heal, for the finances to stabilize, for the pain to stop. We're waiting for the miracle before we give God our worship. But God is saying, I'm with you right now, in the middle of it, in the mess of it, in the waiting, in the confusion, in the grief. That's where I am. I'm not waiting for you to get it together. I'm here with you while you're falling apart. And for so many gospel fans, hearing that truth spoken out loud, with no pretense and no performance, brings them to tears, not from sorrow, but from relief. A reminder that they are not alone. A reminder that their struggle doesn't disqualify them from God's presence. A reminder that faith doesn't mean having all the answers, it means trusting the one who does. Bill Gaither's words resonate because they come from lived experience. He's not speaking from theory. He's not reciting theology he learned in a book. He's speaking from the road, from the losses, from the moments when he didn't know what was coming next but had to keep moving anyway. He's speaking from the hospital rooms, the funerals, the broken relationships, the financial struggles, the seasons of doubt. His message is not about perfection. It's about perseverance. It's about showing up again, even when you're tired. It's about believing again, even when the world has given you every reason not to. And he reminds listeners over and over that God's promises are steady even when life feels unsteady. That's not just poetic. That's practical. That's the kind of truth you can build your life on. That's the kind of truth that holds you when everything else is slipping through your fingers. Bill encourages believers to let this season be more than a moment on the calendar. Don't just pass through Christmas. Don't just check the boxes and move on to the next thing. Let it reset your heart. Let it be the place where you stop running and start remembering, where you stop pretending and start healing, where you stop performing and start resting, where you forgive even when it's difficult, where you trust even when fear has taken root, where you believe again, even when the road ahead is unclear. That, he says, is the true power of Christmas. It's not in the lights. It's not in the music. It's not in the traditions or the gatherings or the gifts. It's in the choice to return to what truly matters: faith, grace, forgiveness, and love. It's in the decision to stop striving and start surrendering, to stop earning and start receiving, to stop hiding and start being honest. And here's the part that really gets to the heart of it all. Bill Gaither's message this Christmas gently reminds believers that the greatest gift was never meant to impress the world. It wasn't designed to dazzle or overwhelm. It wasn't meant to make headlines or draw crowds. It was meant to restore hope. And for many gospel fans, hearing that truth spoken so simply, so sincerely, is enough to stir something deep inside them. Tears start to fall, not because they're sad, but because they're grateful. Because for the first time in a long time, they feel seen. They feel known. They feel like maybe, just maybe, it's okay to stop pretending everything is fine and just admit that they need hope. They need grace. They need God. They need to know that their brokenness doesn't disqualify them from His love. They need to know that their questions don't make them less faithful. They need to know that their struggles don't mean they've been abandoned. That's what Christmas does when you let it. It strips away the performance and leaves you with the presence. It stops being about what you can give and becomes about what you've already been given. And in a world that constantly demands more from you, that is a radical, life-changing gift. Bill Gaither knows that. He's lived it. and he spent his life helping others live it too. He spent decades standing in front of people who are tired, people who are hurting, people who are barely holding on, and reminding them that God is still present, still faithful, and still at work. He's been a voice of hope when hope felt impossible. He's been a reminder of truth when truth felt distant. And he's done it all with a sincerity and humility that makes people trust him. That makes people listen. That makes people believe again. Think about the weight of that for a moment. Think about the hundreds of thousands of people who have sat in arenas, churches, and living rooms, listening to Bill Gaither sing and speak, and who have felt something shift inside them. Something that had been closed opened. Something that had been hard softened. Something that had been lost was found again. That's the power of a message delivered with integrity. That's the power of a life lived in alignment with the words being spoken. Bill doesn't just talk about faith, he lives it. He doesn't just sing about hope, he embodies it. And people can tell the difference. They can sense when someone is speaking from the heart, and when someone is just going through the motions. And Bill Gaither has never been one to go through the motions. He's also been honest about the fact that faith isn't always easy. He's talked openly about the times when he's struggled, when he's questioned, when he's felt the weight of disappointment and loss. And that honesty is what makes his message so powerful. Because people don't need perfect leaders. They need honest ones. They don't need someone who has never struggled. They need someone who has struggled and chosen to keep going. They need someone who can say, I've been where you are, and I'm still here. And God is still faithful. That kind of testimony, that kind of lived experience is worth more than 1,000 sermons. It's worth more than a library full of theology books. Because it's real. It's tangible. It's something you can hold on to when everything else feels uncertain. And Bill's message is especially important right now, in this moment, in this season of life that so many people are walking through, because we're living in a time when so many people feel disconnected, disillusioned, and tired. The world feels heavy. The news feels overwhelming. The demands feel endless, and in the middle of all of that, Christmas can start to feel like just another obligation, just another thing to get through. But Bill Gaither is inviting people to see it differently. He's inviting them to slow down, to breathe, to remember why any of this matters in the first place. He's inviting them to stop trying to manufacture joy and instead receive the peace that's already being offered. He's inviting them to stop striving and start trusting. To stop performing and start resting, to stop hiding and start being honest about where they really are. Because here's the truth, God doesn't need us to have it all together. He doesn't need us to pretend. He doesn't need us to put on a show. He just wants us to show up. He just wants us to be honest. He just wants us to bring our brokenness, our questions, our doubts, our fears, and lay them at his feet. And that's what the Christmas story is really about. It's about a God who came down into the mess, into the chaos, into the brokenness, and said, I'm here. I'm with you. I'm not leaving. And that promise, that presence, is what sustains us, not our strength, not our understanding, not our ability to figure it all out. Just his presence, just his faithfulness, just his love. Bill Gaither has been reminding people of that truth for over 6 decades, and his message hasn't changed because the truth hasn't changed. God is still faithful. God is still present. God is still at work. Even when we can't see it, even when we don't feel it, even when everything around us suggests otherwise. And that's the kind of faith that endures. That's the kind of faith that sustains. That's the kind of faith that Bill has been modeling and teaching and singing about for his entire life. And that's why, when he speaks, people listen. That's why, when he sings, people weep. That's why, when he reminds them of God's faithfulness, they feel something stir inside them that they thought was dead. So this Christmas, if you're tired, if you're hurting, if you're holding on by a thread, this message is for you. If you're wondering if God still sees you, if he still cares, if he's still paying attention, this message is for you. If you've been going through the motions, pretending everything is fine when it's really not, this message is for you. Bill Gaither's gentle reminder is that the greatest gift was never about impressing the world. It was about restoring hope. It was about reminding us that we are not alone. It was about showing us that God's love is not dependent on our performance, our perfection, or our ability to get it right. His love is steady. His presence is constant. His faithfulness is unshakable. And that truth, that simple, profound, life-changing truth, is what keeps people coming back year after year to hear him speak, to hear him sing, to hear him remind them of what really matters. Christmas is not about perfection, it's about presence, and that presence changes everything. It changes how we see ourselves. It changes how we see our circumstances. It changes how we move forward. Because when you know you're not alone, when you know God is with you, when you know His faithfulness is holding you, even when you can't hold yourself, everything shifts. The weight feels lighter. The path feels clearer. The hope feels real again. And that's what Bill Gaither has been giving people for decades. Not answers to every question, not solutions to every problem, but hope. Real, tangible, life-sustaining hope. The kind of hope that makes you believe again. The kind of hope that makes you keep going. The kind of hope that reminds you that God is still present, still faithful, and still at work, even when you can't see it. That's the quiet assurance Bill offers. And that's the truth that keeps people coming back year after year to hear him speak, to hear him sing, to hear him remind them of what really matters. And that's the truth that will carry us through this Christmas and into whatever comes next. If Bill Gaither's message has touched your heart today, if something inside you stirred and you felt that familiar pull toward hope again, I want you to do something right now. Don't let this moment pass. Don't just close this video and move on to the next thing. Take a second and hit that subscribe button. Because this channel is dedicated to bringing you more stories like this, stories of faith, perseverance, and the kind of hope that sustains you when life gets hard. We're building a community here of people who aren't afraid to be honest about their struggles, who are pretending to have it all together, and who are choosing to believe again even when it's difficult. And we need you in that community. Your story matters. Your faith matters. Your journey matters. So subscribe, turn on notifications, and make sure you don't miss the next message that could be exactly what you need to hear. And if this video encouraged you, if it reminded you of something you needed to remember, do me a favor, share it. Share it with someone who's struggling right now. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that they're not alone. Share it with someone who's been holding on by a thread and needs to hear that God is still faithful. You never know whose life you might change by simply passing along a message of hope. Leave a comment below and let me know how this spoke to you. Tell me what you're believing God for this Christmas. Tell me what part of Bill's message resonated most deeply with you. Was it the reminder that God chose humility over grandeur? Was it the truth that faith is proven when hope must be chosen deliberately? Or was it simply knowing that you're not alone in your struggle? I read every single comment, and I'm praying for each person who takes the time to share their heart here. This isn't just a channel, it's a place where real people with real struggles come together to encourage one another and remind each other of God's faithfulness. Let's encourage each other. Let's build each other up. Let's be the kind of community that points each other back to hope when the world tries to steal it away. And if you've been blessed by the music and ministry of Bill Gaither over the years, take a moment right now to thank God for the gift of His faithfulness, for His willingness to share His struggles and His victories, and for His commitment to reminding us all that God's promises are steady, even when life feels unsteady. Maybe you grew up listening to Gaither music in your parents' home, or maybe you discovered His songs during a difficult season, and they became the soundtrack to your healing. Whatever your story is, it matters, and I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments, and let's celebrate together how God has used gospel music to carry us through the hardest moments of our lives. And if you know someone who loves Bill Gaither, who's been encouraged by his music over the years, tag them in the comments. Let them know you're thinking of them this Christmas. Let them know they're not forgotten. Sometimes the smallest gesture of remembrance can mean everything to someone who's feeling invisible. And most importantly, let this message settle deep into your heart. Let it remind you that no matter what you're facing, no matter how hard it's been, no matter how long you've been waiting for things to change, God is still present, still faithful, and still at work in your life. His timing is perfect. His love is unconditional. His grace is sufficient, and His presence is with you right now in this very moment, even as you're hearing these words. So take a deep breath, receive that truth, and let it change the way you walk into the rest of this season. Don't carry the weight alone. Don't pretend you have to be strong all the time. Let this Christmas be the moment when you finally let go and let God carry what you were never meant to carry by yourself. That's the gift He's offering you today, not just salvation, but companionship. Not just forgiveness, but friendship. Not just a distant deity, but a present Father who sees you, knows you, and loves you exactly as you are. So receive it, believe it, and let it transform the way you see yourself, your circumstances, and your future. Because when you know God is with you, everything changes. Merry Christmas, and God bless you abundantly. Let it remind you that no matter what you're facing, no matter how hard it's been, no matter how long you've been waiting for things to change, God is still present, still faithful, and still at work in your life. His timing is perfect even when it feels late. His love is unconditional even when you feel unworthy. His grace is sufficient even when you feel like you've failed too many times. And His presence is with you right now, in this very moment, even as you're hearing these words. So take a deep breath, receive that truth, and let it change the way you walk into the rest of this season. Don't carry the weight alone. Don't pretend you have to be strong all the time. Don't hide your struggles behind a smile. Let this Christmas be the moment when you finally let go and let God carry what you were never meant to carry by yourself. That's the gift He's offering you today. Not just salvation, but companionship. Not just forgiveness, but friendship. Not just a distant deity, but a present Father who sees you, knows you, and loves you exactly as you are. So receive it, believe it, and let it transform the way you see yourself, your circumstances, and your future. Because when you know God is with you, everything changes. The burden feels lighter. The path feels clearer. The hope feels real again. So subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on those notifications. Share this video with someone who needs it. Leave a comment and let me know you were here. And most of all, hold on to the truth that God is still faithful. Merry Christmas, and God bless you abundantly.